So, a little bit of big news coming out for Disney if you haven't noticed. We've got an activist investor known as, Mr. Adan Loeb. He's calling for the dividend to be completely cut. As you might know, Disney has completely suspended their dividend as of now. Not entirely cut it entirely, but Mr. Loeb here is suggesting that Disney completely cuts it and use that money towards streaming. So we're going to talk about the logistics of that and what that could mean for the stock, and specifically what that could mean for the streaming aspect of Disney. Obviously, if you might not know, people invested in Disney. A lot of investors, most likely, might agree with Loeb in this argument because of what streaming could mean for this company, right? This is a company in transition from a traditional media company to more of a Netflix type role where streaming is really taking over traditional media. So the basis for this argument kind of makes sense. Streaming should be at the forefront of what Disney's focusing on. That's kind of his main point here. He makes some other remarks too, but I'll get into really my opinion on it as an investor and what I feel is best for Disney. So, one thing that needs to be noted, obviously, you look at the dividend this company pays. So overall, as of the most recent dividend, they paid a semi-annual 88-cent dividend. So you're talking about $1.76 per share every year. The equivalent around 1.3% is where it was at in terms of yield. So it's not something that's that massive of a miss. If you talk about from an earnings standpoint, a 1.3% yield isn't a massive yield, but it is obviously a factor for some people, right? Some people find that enjoyable just to have a dividend just to show that the company can do that. But I do need to mention, in total, and as he's calculated here, this could save, cutting the dividend could save $3 billion. $3 billion is what this company spends in annualized dividends. And I wanted to put into comparison what $3 billion could mean for a company in terms of streaming. So, naturally, $3 billion is a lot of money. I can't deny it. And if they put all of that into streaming, the amount of content that could be there is pretty incredible. The number one complaint I've ever heard from anyone with Disney Plus is the lack of original content, because you don't have that many new shows, new movies coming out on Disney Plus. It's pretty well just their normal catalog that they've had for, a long time. So the creation of new content could be massive. When you talk about a show like The Mandalorian, that is driven really the majority of the success that Disney has seen in terms of their Plus subscribers, which is a lot, by the way. Their numbers are by far outweighing any of their estimates ever have been, but the issue is keeping those subscribers there. It's going to be with new content, and you're going to see subscribers blow up here in the end of this month because of The Mandalorian coming back. So just be excited for that. But again, I wanted to mention kind of what this could mean in terms of content, right? First, you want to mention, first off, Regal Theaters shutting down. I don't think movie theaters are long for this world, so I think there'll be a new iteration, that's potentially, but I do think, obviously, movie theaters are getting hit hard, so I think moving movies to Disney Plus is going to be a factor. So that's kind of the comparisons I want to bring in here. As far as movies are concerned, Avengers Endgame, which is the highest grossing film of all time, which we'll get into, cost $356 million. As in kind of an idea of what they brought in the box office, Avengers Endgame brought in $2.8 billion. So off of $356 million, they brought in $2.8 billion. So naturally, that's incredible. I'm not saying every movie they do is going to perform that well, but this is just an example of what could potentially happen here. $356 million, so you're telling me that they could, off of this basis here, they could make around 9 original content movies, shows, potentially, off of this cost. And the potential there could be around $2 billion in terms of, we're not going to say it's going to be $2.8 billion, but if they're as successful as an Avengers movie, if they make some unique content as far as the Avengers are concerned, TV shows, whatever it might be, that could be freaking incredible. That could be absolutely incredible in terms of revenue. Because you need to mention here, one big thing with movie theaters is they are really cutting that cost for these, the people creating this movie. Disney here, they're eating the cost of having it streamed in those movie theaters. They are paying those theaters to have it play there. So with streaming, this is 100% their own service. They don't pay that extra fee. That is 100% of the revenue going straight back to them. That is what I like about the idea of streaming. And I'm not saying it's movies are going to be necessarily the case. Again, you look at another movie like the Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is definitely, I think, number 3 in terms of all-time grossing, $306 million. Just think about the amount of content they can make with $3 billion. And you got to look, obviously, with The Mandalorian as well. I wanted to bring that up because it's not just movies that they're going to bring to this. Shows are obviously going to be a big, big portion as well. So, in terms of TV shows, The Mandalorian for them cost them roughly $100 million total to make. So they're giving an estimation that each episode is around $12.5 million in budget, which is an extremely expensive budget for a movie. Or a TV show. No one's ever seen a budget like this, just being frankly honest with you. The amount that they put into this, and the content reflects that. It's ridiculously good content. It's a TV show that watches 100% like a movie that's expanded out. It is incredible. So you're talking about $100 million for this series right now, for this one season. You're telling me they could make really 30, if you want to think about it, 30 seasons, which obviously they're not going to, but 30 different shows with the same budget that The Mandalorian has? Holy crap. Do you know how much that would drive people to Disney Plus? People would be droving in to see 30 original shows that are just like The Mandalorian potentially in terms of, content spend. Those are ridiculously good quality shows, but obviously not every show is going to cost as much as The Mandalorian. Let's be fair here. But I'm just giving an estimation of if they did, how many people that could drive to them. And again, the recurring revenue that they could get from Disney Plus of $6 a month, how many households can they bring that to? And again, my original estimation was by the end of next year, they're going to have over 100 million subscribers. I want to boost that up personally. I think that could be a lot better. If they make a move like this, where they're cutting that dividend and going into spending on content for Disney Plus exclusively, that number could be 100 million by, frankly, the end of the year if they did that move pretty currently, and they went ahead and announced some of these main series early on. Now, again, I do think numbers will boost, because you talk about, places that they've done it originally, lack of content for Disney Plus. But with movies, the way they're having people spend on top of their original Disney Plus membership, they can pay for these movies. But movies they've done it for, obviously, most notably is the most recent Mulan, which Mulan, let's be honest, it kind of, there were some estimations by Yahoo originally that said Mulan may have made $200 million in its opening weekend off streaming sales. It's come out that that's not necessarily the case, and it's not made quite as much. So, and it's Mulan again. Let's be fair here. It's Mulan versus if they did this for an Avengers movie, if they did this for any of the Marvel Universe movies, Star Wars, the results would be quite different. But you do need to mention, even with Mulan, 68% more downloads of the Disney Plus app within that week that it was released. Are you kidding me? So this drives excitement. So if you think they could continuously have content on here for people, that number would just continue to grow. It wouldn't be people upping and then dropping the service next month. They would continue to stay with the service, and that would be recurring revenue for this company. That would be massive. The company's in a massive shift again. And it's not like they're not opposed to it, because now they've announced Disney's Soul, Pixar film Soul, to to release on Disney Plus on Christmas freaking Day. Disney Plus Christmas freaking Day. So extremely to streaming is going to be crazy, which is another big movie that Disney was planning to release in theaters. Now they've said theaters, you can kind of screw off. Again, part of it is because of, well, everything going on right now. Movie theaters aren't necessarily the most socially distant, and they're doing it as a preventative measure. I get it, but I do think just in general, regardless of what's going on now or not, pandemic or not, theaters are on their way out to an extent. There are some people that always enjoy the theater experience. I've never really been one of them. I'd much rather, view content from the inside of my own home, which again, there's differing opinions on this. Some people really enjoy the theater experience. You can't get it at home, but some people really enjoy the comfort of their own home, watching a movie in their own home with the people they like and not having interruptions from other people. Normally there's not, but occasionally there are. If you bring a baby into a movie theater, I'm just going to tell you, I think you're a horrible human being, okay? Why are you bringing your baby to the movie theater? Get out of here. But I'm sorry, that was rude. But again, I'm kind of with Dan Loeb here in the potential for this company with streaming. And I think streaming needs to be their focus. I'm willing to forgo the dividend. I 100% am. Now, there's some other things he mentions here, like combining all their streaming apps with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, because that might not, I think they should remain separate because they're completely different audience for each. Maybe they could have an option where they're combined for people, a specific bundle specifically for that. But again, instead their bundle is including Hulu as well, so I don't necessarily know why that would need to be a case. They already have the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus bundle, which is a fantastic deal. I don't see why they would potentially need to combine Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. I mean, the people watching Disney Plus are looking for family content. They're not necessarily going out and caring about that sports content. There might be an interlapping of audiences, but I don't think it's drawing anyone away from either of the services is my main point of it. But his main point about cutting the dividend, I think, is a very valid one. And I would say, let's freaking go on it. Let's just commit to it, guys. As a shareholder, I'm saying yes. If this comes up on a shareholder vote ballot, oh, freak, you know what I'm guessing. You know what I'm picking here. Disney, let's just do it. Let's just freaking do it, and we can share this, make the share price skyrocket. I think we really can in the next couple of years. I think we can if we make moves like this. So that's my pick on the matter. I hope you enjoyed.